If you want to get rid of inflation, the only way to do it is to undo a lot of the Trump tax cuts and raise rates. No Republican is ever going to do that. So the only way to get rid of inflation is through reconciliation.
Whatever happened to leaders taking responsibility? From the small clip I just played, you can observe how Chuck Schumer missed the opportunity to take responsibility as a leader. As he plays the blame game, he reveals that he does not believe that taking responsibility would garner respect from people. Instead, he chooses a dishonorable path, placing the blame on Trump and Republicans as if he himself, the president, and Democrats had nothing to do with it. Unfortunately, Mr. Chuck Schumer is not a rare case. Many of our political leaders lack this pertinent leadership quality. Watch how President Biden passes the buck when it comes to record-high gas prices.
Despite the progress we made, we know that families are still struggling with higher prices. I grew up in a family where when the price of gas went up at the pump, gas station, we talked about it at the kitchen table. But let's be absolutely clear about why prices are high now. They're high for two reasons. One was COVID, and now, a second big reason for inflation is Vladimir Putin and gas prices. Not a joke. We've seen the price of gas go up over $1 just since he put his troops on the border of Ukraine. The world took notice. The market anticipated. Prices went up. And then Putin invaded. Make no mistake, the current spike in gas prices is largely the fault of Vladimir Putin. It has nothing to do with the American Rescue Plan.
So instead of taking responsibility, he just blames Vladimir Putin. Does he think we have forgotten that he stopped the construction of the XL Keystone Pipeline his first day in office? Does Biden actually believe we forgot that during the Trump administration we were energy independent? Well, the reason I bring this up is in today's episode we will discuss Chuck Schumer's plan to deal with inflation, and we will also discuss how Biden is requesting $33 billion to send to Ukraine. And what I want you to keep in mind is that none of it has anything to do with them taking responsibility as leaders for America and the hard-working taxpayers who they work for. But before we get into this, I wanted to play a clip that serves as an example of what a true, honorable leader sounds like.
As you know, I wrote a book called Extreme Ownership. The opening chapter of the book is a horrible situation with a fratricide happens on the battlefield, so friendly forces killing friendly forces, some of those forces being mine. And, you know, it's all these people I could blame and all these little incidents that happened that I could have said, well, you know, we had this radio cryptographic change that happened in the middle of operation and it had people weren't able to talk to each other. And we had these Iraqis that we didn't speak English. And we had these units that we hadn't worked with before and they did things that we didn't expect. And there's plenty of blame to go around. And essentially I said, hey, you know whose fault this is? This is my fault. I'm the commander. And so when I hear you say things like that, it strikes me that you uncovered this through your study of history and philosophy and religion. And I learned it, you know, as, like I said, a certified knuckle dragger out on the battlefield that realized, you know, if you're going to exist as a leader and as a human, then you need to take responsibility for what happens around you. And that's, again,
and you have to take, well, the religious notion in some sense is that you have to take ultimate responsibility, in that, in some sense, the things that happen around you.
Okay, my friends, let's take a closer look together. With rising inflation managing to rob Americans' hard-earned money, an increasing level of frustration that could soon result in a revolution against the decisions made by the Democrats, you'll be surprised to know the strategy with which Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has come forward with that he believes would solve the problem of record-breaking inflation. He said, if you want to get rid of inflation, the only way to do it is to undo a lot of Trump tax cuts and raise rates. Schumer's statement of increasing the taxes to control inflation immediately attracted backlash from the entire country by arguing that raising taxes will not only reduce the supply chain in the economy, but will also increase the inflation beyond imagination. Many experts refer to the 1970s incidents when higher taxes on corporate profits and individual incomes resulted in further rise in inflation by reducing the investment and productivity growth of the economy, and in the end, falling into the trap of recession. Bill Clinton's pollster, Mark Penn, also issued a stark warning to the Democrats by stating that the destructive economic decisions taken by them is now reminding the citizens about the nuclear anxieties of the 1950s, inflation threats of the 1970s, and the crime wave of the 80s, and illegal immigration of the 2000s and beyond. Furthermore, he stressed that Americans today are facing real and undeniable problems that are being caused solely by the actions of the Democratic Party. If no sufficient action is taken to release pressure, then it could soon burst out in the upcoming elections. The only way to control inflation is by focusing on creating a strong monetary policy that was adopted by Canadian economist Robert Mundell in the 1980s. To be more specific, Robert's strategy of tighter money and tax cuts is the same strategy that was adopted by Trump in 2017, which eventually resulted in higher economic growth through increase and investment and controlling the inflation till 2021. However, every economic action under the Biden administration is now not only dragging us 10 to 20 years behind, but also a century. While discovering the ultimate objective of the Democrats behind increasing tax rates, American economist Stephanie Kelton said they are doing it to increase their spending power without worrying about how it will affect the citizens. And if they need more funds for investments, they will simply focus on doing the same again, thus reducing the spending power of the citizens by utilizing the trick of increasing tax rates. As the Russia-Ukraine war does not appear to be ending anytime soon, President Biden, with his promise to stand by Ukraine against Russia, has now requested $33 billion from the Congress to support Ukraine. If the Congress approves this fund, then the total amount towards supporting Ukraine by the U.S. will be around a massive $50 billion since the Russia-Ukraine war began on February 24th. The request came into the picture as a result of a statement issued by the Ukraine military on April 28th about the deadly increase of Russian attacks in the country from all directions. A few days ago, Russia decided to cut off natural gas supply to Poland and Bulgaria for refusing to pay in rubles. As Russia threatened to do the same with other countries, the European Union condemned the actions by stating it was a form of blackmail. In response, Senator Chris Van Hollen said if Putin thought that he could invade Ukraine with impunity, this request by POTUS is another reminder that he made a severe miscalculation. Now, the Congress must act with the urgency this moment demands to approve this additional funding to support Ukraine. If we break down the amount, $20.4 billion will go to assist the Ukraine military, and $8.5 billion will go to assist their economy. A package of $3 billion will also go towards addressing food shortages around the world. In a secret plan to respond to the majority of citizens who don't favor Biden's decision-making power in the recent polls, the president is now considering to cancel $1.6 trillion in federal student loans that was taken out intentionally with the purpose to pay them back. As it's considered the second largest debt held by Americans, the move could put more than 43 million borrowers under severe pressure, with the rise of inflation eating their savings day by day. After hearing the report, Utah GOP Senator Mitt Romney immediately responded by stating the move as a bribe. In his tweet, he stated, "Desperate polls call for desperate measures. Dems consider forgiving trillions in student loans. Other bribes suggest forgive auto loans, forgive credit card debt, forgive mortgages, and put a wealth tax on the super rich to pay for it all. What could possibly go wrong?" Many citizens from all over the country also expressed anger by referring to Biden's act as a step towards political, economic, and constitutional warfare, which could result in benefiting only the rich students. However, despite knowing how massively it could affect the middle-class families, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki confirmed that the president is considering canceling the student loan and looking for other executive options to ease the burden on families suffering from such loans. This statement openly declares how the Biden administration loves putting pressure on citizens with insensitive news before finding an alternative solution. The world's biggest online retailer, Amazon, has recently reported a loss of $3.8 billion after enjoying a smooth flow of constant sales of its products during the COVID-19 pandemic. The Q1 growth of the company is not even close to what it had last year when it stood at the profit of $7.7 billion in the same period. According to the CEO of the company, Andy Jassy, the reason behind this can be linked with the rise in fuel prices from the Russian-Ukraine war that shows its effects while delivering the products, Amazon's move to offer higher pay to attract more workers, and direct impact on the consumer's budget due to the rise in fuel prices. All these factors have now increased the operational cost of the company by 13.2%, which is around $112 million. And as the shareholders were looking to hear something positive, one of Amazon's partners, United Partner Service, revealed to the public that he expects delivery growth of the company to be much slower than expected, which eventually resulted in 11.75% decline in the after-hours trading of Amazon shares. However, the Amazon Web Services that was under the leadership of the current CEO has witnessed a revenue jump by 37% of $18.4 billion, which is much higher than the analyst estimates. To reduce its operational costs and increase profits, the company is now focusing on increasing the efficiency of transferring the products from the warehouse to the targeted customers. According to Scott Mushkin, who is the founder of the research firm R5 Capital, Amazon has a massive amount of distribution and logistics infrastructure that are also contributing towards heavy losses because of low volume of sales. If they want to increase their profit, then it must find ways to grab more orders through its Prime Day or annual sales tactics. Surprisingly, in North America, which is also the largest market of Amazon, sales jumped by 8% despite the increase in operational costs by 16%. As Amazon is now shifting its focus towards groceries, its physical store sales jumped by 17% when it recently automated its 2 Whole Food locations without a cashier. CEO Andy Jassy said, "The pandemic and subsequent war in Ukraine have brought unusual growth and challenges. Today, as we are no longer chasing physical or staffing capacity, our teams are squarely focused on improving productivity and cost efficiencies throughout our fulfillment network. We know how to do this and have done it before. This may take some time, particularly as we work through ongoing inflationary and supply chain pressures, but we see encouraging progress on a number of customer experience dimensions, including delivery speed performance, as we are now approaching levels not seen since the months immediately preceding the pandemic in early 2020. As per the upcoming second quarter report, Amazon is expecting net sales between $116 billion to $121 billion, whereas financial markets data company Refinitiv is expecting net sales around $125.5 billion. After constantly imposing unreasonable and suffocating mask mandates on every citizen, CDC, the Center for Disease and Control and Prevention, has been red-handedly caught violating its own rules beyond imagination. According to an exclusive investigation conducted by media company, the EPOCH Times, around 400 employees working at the CDC have failed to receive their COVID-19 vaccine, which is around 3.2% of the entire workforce. To be more specific, the Freedom of Information Act officer Roger Ando, working at the agency, revealed that a total of 382 workers at the CDC are unvaccinated and 9 employees have had only 1 dose of the Pfizer or Moderna vaccines. However, they are supposed to have 2 doses of Pfizer or Moderna vaccines or a single shot of the Johnson & Johnson jab. While referencing a statement mentioned in the December 2021 data of CDC, Officer Roger failed to provide any recent data of March 2022 when asked by the EPOCH Times and said, "Please note that this is the most recent and most complete data available, and some data elements that you requested are not available." Soon, the EPOCH Times filed an appeal to the Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, which is the parent agency of CDC, and found an unreasonable email response from the department stating it was accidental. Jonathan Nelson, who is an analyst from Freedom of Information Act working at HHS, said, "The response I got to your appeal from CDC gave me the impression they didn't mean to withhold any information in the first place. Based on that, my personal belief is that this was just an accidental omission on their part." Now, if you look at these responses, it seems easy to type in an email that it was accidental omission or they didn't mean to withhold any information. But what we must look at is the fact that this is the same government agency that forcefully decided to go out of its statutory authority to impose mask mandates on the entire country, including little ones, while they enjoyed playing, with the same rules in their own backyard like no one was supposed to notice. The CDC, who has now found that the real truth has come out, immediately rushed forward to defend themselves and told the Epoch Times that 12,399 employees were fully vaccinated, meaning they have received 2 doses of Pfizer or Moderna vaccines or a single shot of the Johnson & Johnson jab. However, the astonishing part to notice is that they already knew around 400 employees were not vaccinated. Not to forget, the Epoch Times also found that 3 health agencies of HHS are constantly involved in promoting the COVID-19 vaccination, but have refused to provide any data existing after December 2021, which hints towards profiting through COVID vaccine promotion. Those agencies are Food and Drug Administration, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, and the National Institutes of Health. And that's it for today, my friends. Don't forget to like and share, and most importantly, join our member site and support the mission to deliver truthful information. I'd rather depend on the generosity of you, people I can trust, than ever have to depend on YouTube again. Thank you all for spending this time with me. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next time.